Now some breaking news to bring you. In the last few minutes, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary David Lammy has publicly apologised for his involvement in appointing Peter Mandelson to the United States Ambassador whilst he was Foreign Secretary.
Let's take a listen.
The Prime Minister has apologised for the appointment of Peter Mandelson. His former Chief of Staff has stood down and taken responsibility for that appointment. As Foreign Secretary at the time, of course, I was subject to collective responsibility, and I am sorry that that decision was made.
Well, this comes as Lord Mandelson has been released on bail after being arrested yesterday on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
Well, joining us now is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, a significant moment.
Well, it is. I mean, you've heard from the Prime Minister before, and now, of course, his deputy there saying that they regret the appointment of Peter Mandelson. But really, in the end of the day, what, of course, many MPs and others want to know is just how was that appointment reached, given what there would have been in the way of potential background information on the risks or otherwise that Peter Mandelson's appointment to that role would have posed, and just how far did the likes of the Prime Minister go in accepting some of the advice, ignoring some of the advice. That's why the MPs, of course, relating at the moment, as we've just been hearing, that motion about the appointment of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, but likewise MPs also want documents released that relate to the background vetting that took place re the appointment of Peter Mandelson as well. The difficult area that we run into, though, are the live investigations on both parts. Of course, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's appointment and also Peter Mandelson's appointment as well. And that's where the government says that it's currently in a difficult position, that it wants to comply as much as possible with releasing as much in the way of these files as possible, but they need to take advice from both the police and the Crown Prosecution Service, read the ongoing investigation, and whether that will in some way impede that investigation, and that they will only be able to gauge once the police have given them some feedback into the files and what impact they might have.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Do we have any idea how long it will take them to sort of give us some idea as to what Keir Starmer knew in terms of vetting, let's say, Mandelson, because that's currently going on? Do we have any indication at the duration?
Well, in some cases, it could be a very long time indeed, because if we're going down the road of a formal investigation. We haven't even got to the stage yet, and we might not get to the stage, remember, of formal charges. But if we do get to a stage of formal charges, then there will be a trial which will be some way off. And likely to be a complex trial that will take investigators quite an amount of time to mount that case anyway. So we're talking potentially a year down the road before any trial might take place. Then after the trial is concluded, provided it's a successful prosecution, there are no appeals, retrials or anything like that, only then would some of the files, it seems, relating to the appointment of Peter Mandelson be available for publication. And that's why you've got so many members of Parliament and others who really are quite concerned about the length of time that they may have to wait before some crucial questions about the Prime Minister's conduct here and the way in which he made these decisions. Will it be known? When will it be known? And if it's known a year or so from now, is it too late anyway? He might be out of office by that time.
All right, Mark White, thank you very much. Well, joining us now is GBNews' royal correspondent Cameron Walker with more on this. So Andrew, he was arrested. He's been released on bail.
He's been released under investigation on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He's not been charged with an offence, and he has always denied allegations of wrongdoing. We've, reached out for him on several occasions with specific allegations, and we have not heard back from him. The Liberal Democrats today, as you say, have kind of started, are using their opposition day motions to force the government to release all documents relating to Andrew's appointment as trade envoy to the United Kingdom. He was trade envoy between 2001 and 2011. The government has said in Parliament today that they will not oppose the release of those documents. I think quite ironically, in 2011, Ed Davey was a business minister in the coalition government in the final months that Andrew was trade envoy. And when a member of Parliament tried to criticise Andrew as trade envoy back then, he kind of battered it down and said, I'm paraphrasing, but how dare you bring up the royal family in Parliament and try and criticise the royal family in Parliament. That is something that Ed Davey has apologised for today, both in the House of Commons and in media rounds this morning, saying, I wish I hadn't said those words. And he also said, to start his Opposition Day debate, that the women, the victims, have to be at the forefront of our minds in all of this. Of course, that's relating to the separate allegations regarding the alleged sex trafficking that happened with Jeffrey Epstein into the United Kingdom and indeed around the world. He said in Parliament some pretty scathing things about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, but I think the wider point is, and Chris Bryant MP, the business minister who's speaking on behalf of the government this afternoon, who said that the government is supporting this motion, is that why was it that in 2011 parliamentary authorities, this is what Chris Bryant, the business minister, is saying, why was it that parliamentary authorities and the previous speaker appeared to shut down any attempts to criticise or scrutinise the then Prince Andrew, or indeed the then Prince Andrew, when talking about him as trade envoy? So MPs essentially are saying, and there are a number of MPs that wanted to have their say today, that they were barred from talking about this until now.
But it's a very different sort of time then, do you know what I mean? I get it that, the royal family were held, I think, in much higher esteem, simply for all the things that have been opening up about them. Maybe, the gloves are off, we can all see everything behind the curtain, which we didn't really want to see, if I'm honest. But it was a different time then, wasn't it, where you wouldn't have said anything because you didn't want to speak about the royal family in a negative way, especially in somewhere like Parliament.
Exactly, and Ed Davey says that we must now build a culture of transparency and accountability relating to the royal family. I think the royal family survives because it has this quite wonderful ability to adapt, and I think for them, and quite difficult, and this will be very difficult for them, I think now it appears MPs are calling for that kind of open and honest transparency and and adapting what is in the public domain, essentially. Now, clearly, what MPs and the Minister, Chris Bryant, and indeed Sir Ed Davey were making was that you have to distinguish Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's alleged conduct with the working members of the royal family conduct, i.e. His Majesty the King, who Ed Davey actually called His Royal Highness the King, which isn't accurate, but that's by the by, and the Prince of Wales and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh and all the rest of them, who do quite sterling work, they were saying, representing this country, whereas and representing this country in a positive way, unlike Andrew Mountbatten Windsor appears to have done so, although, of course, he has denied all allegations against him.
Although, of course, you can see why they would have wanted Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as a trade envoy. I mean, if you're going to send off some junior minister for paperclips to some far-flung part of the world, are they going to get in the same room as the guy who's the son of the most famous monarch on earth? I mean, he would open doors that perhaps a junior minister wouldn't.
Yes, I do get your point, Tom. But what a member of Parliament has said in Parliament, she gave an anecdote of her time on a trade mission to Japan, and they were trying to big up Dolly the sheep. This is the great
two-headed sheep.
British invention, cloning the sheep. Cloning the sheep. Yeah, cloning the sheep. It was a great British invention, scientific innovation. Andrew, she says, in Parliament, said that in front of the Japanese delegates, this is rubbish, this is Frankenstein's sheep. So the question that she was making was, even though he was a member of the royal family, was he the best person to be in the position of trade envoy to promote British business abroad? And that is why the Lib Dems argue, and the government supports, that these documents relating to his appointment in the first place in 2001 needs to be out in the open to be properly scrutinised.
Well, they also sort of redirected it to how he was vetted rather than the stories of how rude and arrogant he was, which Chris Bryant called him after he was invited to something and they sort of left early and didn't even make any contact with the people, which is quite rude. Cameron Walker, thank you very much. And thank you for teaching me that it's the King is His Majesty, not HRH.
Yes.
See?
Much more senior.
Yes, much more senior. I didn't know the difference, but that's good.